My son threw me in a nursing home and called me just a janitor in front of strangers. My name is John Thompson. What Stephen didn't know was that this janitor had secretly donated nearly $2 million to save families in medical crisis. When he dumped me at Sunset Gardens to steal my house money for an $85,000 country club membership, he triggered a legal countdown that would destroy everything he'd built on lies: the fake medical degree, the fraudulent references, the entire identity he'd constructed to escape his embarrassing father. I didn't beg, I didn't cry, I made one phone call. 96 hours later, 200 families I'd helped surrounded that nursing home. News cameras rolled, and Stephen discovered that his inheritance, every penny of it, now belonged to the people he'd spent years looking down on. You know what's beautiful about justice? Sometimes it's served by the very people you tried to hide from. Hit subscribe and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I read every single one. This is how a 70-year-old nobody taught his son that respect isn't bought, it's earned. Let me take you back to March 15th, 2024, Springfield, Ohio. I was sitting in my 1987 Chevy pickup when Stephen pulled up in his BM 187,000 miles on that truck. Still ran like the day I bought it. Dad, we need to talk. He couldn't even look at me. Same way he'd acted since he was 25. Always checking over his shoulder to see who might be watching him talk to the old custodian. The house is worth $2.5 million now, he said. The neighborhood's completely gentrified. I knew what was coming. Stephen had been circling this conversation for months. I found you a nice place. Sunset Gardens. Private room, $320 a day. $320. He'd done his research. What about the pharmaceutical job? I asked. Thought business was good. His face tightened. Stephen sold medical supplies to 47 offices across 3 counties. Good money, but not country club money. It's not about the job, Dad. It's about planning ahead. You're 79. 69. But who's counting? You know what Dr. Martinez told me at your last checkup? Early signs of confusion. Memory issues. I stared at him. Dr. Sarah Martinez had been my friend for 15 years. She'd never said anything like that. I already put down a deposit, Stephen continued. They're expecting you tomorrow. Tomorrow? The Riverside Country Club has an opening. 18-month waiting list, but someone dropped out. If I don't move fast... Country Club? Stephen's jaw set hard. The same expression he'd worn since medical school, since he'd started telling people he was going to be a doctor. Some opportunities don't wait, Dad. That's when I understood. Stephen wasn't planning ahead for my care. He was planning ahead for his reputation. See, Stephen had been living a lie for 13 years. Back in 2011, he dropped out of University of Cincinnati Medical School. Second year. Couldn't handle organic chemistry, but he never told me. For 13 years, he'd been carrying around a fake diploma. University of Cincinnati, Doctor of Medicine, May 21st, 2011. Beautiful calligraphy. Cost him $800 from a guy in Cincinnati. He'd been telling people he was taking a break from medicine to build capital in pharmaceutical sales. Temporary detour. Any day now, he'd open his own practice. The country club was supposed to make it permanent. Network with real doctors. Maybe they'd stop asking when he planned to use his medical degree. I already signed the papers, he said. Sunset Gardens. Your room's ready. I looked at my hands. 43 years of cleaning floors, emptying trash cans, mopping hallways. These hands had scrubbed every inch of Springfield General Hospital. Twice. Stephen had paid for medical school with these hands. $180,000 over 6 years. 3 jobs. Hospital custodian during the day. Office buildings at night. Weekend maintenance at the mall. Never missed a tuition payment. Dad, are you listening? I was listening. I was also remembering something Stephen didn't know about. In my basement behind the furnace, I kept a small office. File cabinet with 847 folders. Each folder had a family's name. Each family had needed help with medical bills they couldn't afford. The Martinez family, $12,000 for pediatric surgery. The Williams family, $8,500 for chemotherapy. The Johnson family, $15,000 for emergency dialysis. 847 families. $1,947,338. 25 years of systematic giving. But Stephen had always been too embarrassed to visit my basement. "You'll be happier there," he said, "around people your own age." I nodded slowly. "When do we go?" "Now. Car's packed. The ride to Sunset Gardens took 18 minutes. Stephen kept the radio on to avoid conversation. I watched Springfield blur past my window. 43 years in this town. Every street corner held a memory. Every family I'd helped. The nursing home sat on Maple Street. 3-story brick building. Perfectly manicured lawn. Sign out front. Sunset Gardens, where family comes first. Stephen parked near the entrance, left the engine running. "This is temporary," he said, "just until I get settled." "Settled?" "The country club thing. It's an investment, Dad. Riverside Country Club. These are serious people. Surgeons, specialists, hospital administrators. The kind of networking that opens doors." I understood now. Stephen wasn't joining a country club. He was buying his way into a new identity. 85,000 initiation fee, 2,400 monthly dues. It's steep, but where's the money coming from? Stephen's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "The house, Dad. It's sitting on prime real estate. Developers are circling. With your medical expenses coming up." "What medical expenses?" "Early dementia care isn't cheap. Sunset Gardens is just the beginning. Eventually you'll need specialized treatment, memory care units, round-the-clock supervision." He'd thought this through, created an entire fictional timeline of my decline. "The house money will cover everything," he said. 5 years, maybe 10. After that? Stephen didn't answer. He was already getting out of the car. Inside Sunset Gardens, everything smelled like industrial disinfectant and institutional food. The intake coordinator, a woman named Fiona Mills, had my paperwork ready. "Mr. Thompson, welcome. We've prepared room 217 for you." "Stephen Thompson," my son said, shaking her hand. "I'm a medical professional, so I understand the challenges you face here." Medical professional, not doctor, never doctor, always something vague enough to avoid questions. Fiona smiled. "Wonderful. It helps when family members understand healthcare. I've brought Dad's medication list, insurance information, emergency contacts." "Emergency contacts?" "Just me. Dad doesn't have much family left." That was true. My wife Margaret died 8 years ago. Cancer, 63 years old. Stephen had been too busy with medical conferences to visit much during her final months. Medical conferences that were actually pharmaceutical sales meetings in hotel ballrooms. "Any special dietary restrictions?" Fiona asked. "Nothing serious. Dad's pretty low maintenance. Low maintenance. 43 years of raising him, and I'd been reduced to low maintenance." "Room 217 has a nice view of the garden," Fiona said. "Monthly rate is $9,600. $9,600. Stephen had lied about the daily rate, too. "That's fine," Stephen said. "I'll be handling all financial arrangements." We took the elevator to the second floor. Room 217 was small but clean. Single bed, desk, television, private bathroom. Window overlooked a courtyard with benches and flower beds. "This is nice, Dad." Peaceful. I sat on the bed. Springs creaked under my weight. "I'll visit next weekend," Stephen said. "Get you settled in first." He was already backing toward the door. "Stephen." "Yeah?" "The house keys." He hesitated. "I'll need those." "For the realtor showings." I reached into my pocket, pulled out my key ring. 43 years of keys. House, truck, post office box, hospital maintenance closets. Stephen took them without meeting my eyes. "This is best for everyone, Dad. You'll see." After he left, I sat alone in room 217. $9,600 a month. 9,600 times 12. 115,200 annually. My house was worth $2.5 million. At current nursing home rates, that money would last 21 years. I was 69 years old. Stephen was betting I wouldn't live past 90. But Stephen didn't know about the phone call I'd made from the truck. Patricia Williams, hospital social worker, 20-year friend. The woman who'd helped me coordinate medical assistance for 847 families. "John, what's wrong?" "Patricia, I need you to make some calls." "What kind of calls?" "Remember the trust documents we set up? The ones Margaret insisted on?" Pause. "The charitable trust?" "John, that was 18 months ago. The abandonment clause kicks in after 72 hours of involuntary institutionalization. John, are you sure about this? I looked around room 217. Institutional furniture, strangers' voices in the hallway, the smell of other people's loneliness. I'm sure. Okay, I'll call Dr. Martinez, then the legal aid office. Thank you, Patricia. John, I'm sorry this happened. Don't be sorry. Be thorough. The countdown had started. Stephen had 72 hours to change his mind. He wouldn't. Saturday morning came with institutional oatmeal and lukewarm coffee. I was sitting in the common area when Stephen's BMW pulled up outside. He'd brought someone with him. Blonde woman in a business suit. Real estate agent. Dad. Stephen barely looked at me. This is Rebecca Stone from Premium Properties. She's going to handle the house listing. Rebecca Stone had perfect teeth and a firm handshake. Mr. Thompson, your son tells me you're excited about this transition. Excited? Moving to assisted living can be liberating. No more property maintenance, yard work, repairs. I looked at Stephen. He was studying his phone. The house has incredible potential, Rebecca continued. Prime location, original hardwood floors. We're thinking $2.7 million asking price. 2.7. The price had gone up overnight. Market's moving fast, Stephen said. Rebecca thinks we could have offers by Tuesday. Tuesday. 4 days from now. Any special attachment to the property? Rebecca asked. Family heirlooms we should be careful with? I thought about my basement office. 847 folders. 25 years of careful documentation. Every family I'd helped. Every medical bill I'd quietly paid. There's some paperwork in the basement, I said. Personal files. Stephen's head snapped up. What kind of files? Old hospital records, tax documents. I'll sort through everything, Stephen said quickly. Nothing important. But Rebecca was already taking notes. We'll want to stage the basement as a home office. Very popular with buyers. Mind if I take a quick look? Actually, Stephen said, the basement's pretty cluttered. Maybe we should clear it out first. Cluttered with what? Stephen glanced at me, then back at Rebecca. Old medical textbooks. My father used to... He was interested in medicine. Interested in medicine. Not he paid for my medical school. Not he worked 3 jobs so I could become a doctor. Just interested. How charming, Rebecca said. Self-educated man. Very American story. Self-educated. Like I'd been reading medical journals for fun, instead of trying to understand the bills I was helping families pay. We should probably get those books donated, Stephen continued. Clear out the space. Don't touch the books, I said quietly. Stephen froze. Dad? I said don't touch the books. The common area went quiet. Other residents looked up from their newspapers and card games. Rebecca cleared her throat. Maybe I should come back when... No. I stood up. You want to see the basement? Let's see the basement. Stephen stepped forward. Dad, you're not supposed to leave the facility. Doctor's orders. Whose orders? Dr. Martinez said I need supervised care for memory issues. I turned to Rebecca. Do I seem confused to you? Rebecca looked between us. You seem quite lucid, Mr. Thompson. Dad, let's not make this harder than it needs to be. Harder for who? Stephen's face flushed, the same color he'd turned in college when caught in a lie. Look, he said, voice rising, I'm trying to do what's best for everyone. You can't live alone anymore. The house is too much responsibility. This, he gestured around the common room, this is where you belong. Where I belong. With people your own age, he continued. People who understand what you're going through. What am I going through, Stephen? You're 79 years old. You're a retired janitor, living in a house you can't afford to maintain. Retired janitor. In front of a stranger. Rebecca shifted uncomfortably. Maybe I should... You worked your whole life cleaning other people's messes, Stephen continued. Don't you think you've earned the right to let someone else take care of you? Other residents were staring now. An old woman with a walker. A man in a wheelchair reading the Springfield Herald. They'd all heard Stephen call me a janitor. I mean, what's the alternative? Stephen asked. Yeah, you stay in that house alone until something happens? Until you fall down the stairs or forget to turn off the stove? I've never forgotten to turn off the stove. You forgot to pay the electric bill last month. That was a lie. I'd never missed a utility payment in 43 years. Stephen, I said quietly, you're embarrassing yourself. I'm embarrassing myself? His voice cracked. Dad, I'm trying to save you from ending up broke and homeless. That house is your only asset. Only asset. Rebecca was backing toward the door. I should probably reschedule. No, Stephen said. We're not rescheduling. The listing goes live Monday morning. Pictures, virtual tour, everything. He turned back to me. Dad, I know this is hard, but sometimes adult children have to make difficult decisions. Adult children. Like he was the parent and I was the child. I'm not asking for your permission, he continued. I'm asking for your cooperation. The common room was dead silent. Every resident, every visitor, every staff member was watching this conversation unfold. You want my cooperation? I asked him. Yes. I walked to the payphone in the corner. Old rotary phone. Probably been there since 1980. Dropped in 2 quarters. Dialed a number from memory. Patricia? It's John. Are those calls made? Stephen stepped closer. Dad, who are you talking to? Yes, I'm sure, I said into the phone. Monday morning. I hung up. Who was that? Stephen demanded. Someone who knows the truth. What truth? I looked at Stephen. Really looked at him. Same face I'd watched grow up. Same eyes that used to light up when I came home from work. Same hands I'd taught to throw a baseball. The truth about who's been taking care of who. Rebecca Stone was already outside, walking quickly toward her car. Stephen followed my gaze, then looked back at me. Dad, what did you do? But I was already walking toward the elevator. Visiting hours are over, son. Sunday morning brought unexpected visitors. I was in the dining room, picking at scrambled eggs that tasted like rubber, when Patricia Williams appeared in the doorway. John? You have company. Behind her stood Dr. Sarah Martinez, still in her hospital scrubs. She must have come straight from her shift. John? Sarah's voice was warm but concerned. How are you feeling? Like a man who's been lied about. Sarah glanced around the dining room. Other residents were eating breakfast, but their attention had shifted to our conversation. Can we talk somewhere private? We found an empty visiting room near the main entrance. Patricia closed the door behind us. John, Sarah said, your son called me yesterday. Said you were having some kind of episode. What kind of episode? Paranoid delusions, claiming people were conspiring against you. I almost laughed. Did he mention why he thinks I need supervised care? Sarah's expression darkened. He said I'd diagnosed you with early dementia, memory issues, confusion, inappropriate behavior, and, John, I've never diagnosed you with anything except high blood pressure. Your last cognitive assessment scored perfect. Patricia leaned forward. Sarah, tell him about the other thing. What other thing? I asked. Sarah hesitated. I got a call this morning from Fiona Mills, the intake coordinator here. She wanted to verify your medical history. And? She asked about your son. Whether he was really a doctor. My pulse quickened. What did you tell her? I told her I'd never heard of Dr. Stephen Thompson. No Stephen Thompson in our hospital directory. No medical license on file with the state board. The room went quiet. She seemed surprised, Sarah continued. Apparently your son has been presenting himself as a medical professional, using medical terminology, discussing treatment protocols. Patricia nodded. There's more, John. I made some calls yesterday after we talked. What kind of calls? Remember the Riverside Country Club application? The one requiring character references? I nodded. Stephen listed 3 references. Dr. Robert Kim from Cincinnati General, Dr. Lisa Park from Children's Hospital, Dr. James Chen from the University Medical Center. And? Patricia smiled grimly. None of those doctors exist, John. Fake names, fake credentials, fake references. The implications hit me like a wave. Stephen hadn't just been lying to me. He'd been lying to everyone. How long has this been going on? I asked. Best I can tell? 13 years, since he dropped out of medical school. Sarah shook her head. John, I had no idea. He's been using medical jargon, discussing patient care, even offering informal consultations at hospital events. Any legal issues? Practicing medicine without a license is a felony, Sarah said, but he's been careful. Never actually treated patients, never prescribed medication, just played the part. Exactly. Patricia opened her purse, pulled out a folder. There's something else. About the house. What about it? The trust documents we filed 18 months ago? They're not just theoretical anymore, John. The abandonment clause activated this morning at 8 a.m. Meaning? Meaning the house deed is no longer in your name. As of 3 hours ago, it belongs to the Children's Medical Relief Fund. I stared at her. It's done? It's done. Stephen can list it, show it, even accept offers. But he can't legally sell what he doesn't own. Sarah looked confused. What trust? What abandonment clause? Patricia explained. After Margaret died, John was worried about end-of-life care. What would happen if his family ever tried to warehouse him somewhere against his will? So we created a charitable trust with a specific trigger. What kind of trigger? If John is ever involuntarily placed in long-term care by a family member, all assets transfer automatically to charity. It's completely legal. Margaret insisted on it. Why charity? Sarah asked. I thought about my basement office. 847 folders, 25 years of quiet giving. Because charity never abandons you. Patricia checked her watch. John, there's one more thing. The country club called this morning. Riverside? They want to verify Stephen's application, specifically his medical credentials and character references. Sarah and I exchanged glances. What did you tell them? I told them they should probably speak with you directly. Me? Patricia smiled. They're expecting your call, John. Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Monday morning, 9:15 a.m. I was on the payphone in the Sunset Gardens lobby when Stephen's BMW screeched into the parking lot. He'd brought backup this time, Rebecca Stone, and 2 men in expensive suits. Mr. Thompson? The voice on the phone was crisp, professional. This is Charles Morrison from Riverside Country Club. We received some interesting information about your son's membership application. Through the lobby windows, I watched Stephen arguing with Rebecca in the parking lot. The 2 suited men were taking pictures of the building. What kind of information? I asked. Several concerns, actually. Character references that don't check out. Claims about medical credentials we can't verify. Stephen was pointing at me through the window now. His face was red with anger. And frankly, Mr. Thompson, we're troubled by reports of elder abandonment. Elder abandonment. Placing a competent senior in institutional care against their will for financial gain. It's not the kind of behavior we associate with Riverside membership. The lobby doors burst open. Stephen stormed in, followed by Rebecca and the 2 suits. Dad, get off the phone. I'm having a conversation. With who? I covered the receiver. Charles Morrison, Riverside Country Club. Stephen's face went white. Mr. Morrison? Yes, I'm still here. Could you hold for just a moment? I turned to Stephen. These gentlemen were just asking about your character references. Dad, hang up the phone. Dr. Robert Kim from Cincinnati General, Dr. Lisa Park from Children's Hospital, Dr. James Chen from the University Medical Center. Stephen stepped forward. Dad, funny thing about those doctors, Stephen, they don't exist. Rebecca looked confused. What's he talking about? One of the suited men lawyers, I realized, cleared his throat. Mr. Thompson, we need to discuss the house listing. Which Mr. Thompson? The property owner, I smiled. That would be the Children's Medical Relief Fund. Stephen's mouth fell open. What? As of yesterday morning, 8 a.m., the house deed transferred automatically when you abandoned me here. That's impossible. The first lawyer opened his briefcase, pulled out a stack of documents. Actually, Mr. Thompson, we've just come from the courthouse. Your father's quite right. The property is no longer in his name. Rebecca stepped forward. I don't understand. We have a listing agreement. You have an agreement to sell property that's now owned by a registered charity, the lawyer explained. The listing is invalid. Stephen turned on me. You planned this. I prepared for this. You can't just give away my inheritance. The lobby had filled with residents and staff. Word was spreading through Sunset Gardens like wildfire. Your inheritance? I asked quietly. That house is my future. Your future was medical school, Stephen. Remember the $180,000 I paid for your education? I didn't ask you to do that. You didn't ask me to work 3 jobs either. You didn't ask me to clean floors until midnight so you could become a doctor. Stephen's voice rose. I never asked you to sacrifice everything. No, you just asked me to disappear quietly so you wouldn't be embarrassed. Fiona Mills, the intake coordinator, had joined the crowd. She was listening intently. Mr. Thompson, she said to Stephen, yesterday you told me you were a medical professional. I am. I work in pharmaceutical sales, But you let me believe you were a physician. Stephen's jaw tightened. I never said I was a doctor. You discussed treatment protocols. You used medical terminology. You advised us on my father's care needs. The second lawyer stepped forward. Mr. Thompson, are you licensed to practice medicine in Ohio? That's not relevant. It's very relevant if you've been misrepresenting your credentials. Fiona looked at her clipboard. Your intake forms list you as Dr. Stephen Thompson, MD. That was a mistake. A mistake? I watched my son crumble in real time. 13 years of careful deception unraveling in 5 minutes. The country club application was also interesting. Charles Morrison's voice came through the phone receiver I was still holding. Claims of medical expertise, references from non-existent doctors. I put the phone back to my ear. Mr. Morrison, are you still there? I'm here, Mr. Thompson, and I'm withdrawing your son's membership application immediately. Stephen lunged for the phone. Let me talk to him. No point, son. They've heard enough. Rebecca was backing toward the door. I'm canceling the listing. This is way too complicated. The first lawyer nodded. Smart choice. The property can't be sold anyway. What about my deposit? Stephen demanded. What about it? I paid $85,000. You paid $85,000 for a membership you obtained through fraud, the lawyer explained. The club has every right to keep it. Stephen turned on me, eyes blazing. You did this. You ruined everything. I protected myself. From what? From a son who was ashamed of his father. The lobby went silent. Every person in that room, residents, staff, lawyers, real estate agent, was watching this confrontation unfold. 35 years, I continued quietly. You've been telling people I was just a janitor. Like that was something to apologize for. Dad, you know what I did as a janitor, Stephen? I learned. Every night, cleaning those hospital floors, I watched. I listened. I saw families drowning in medical debt. Stephen's expression shifted. For the first time, he looked uncertain. So I started helping. Quietly. Anonymously. 25 years of systematic giving. Fiona Mills stepped closer. What kind of giving? Medical bills, surgical costs, emergency treatments families couldn't afford. How much? One of the lawyers asked. $1,947,338. The room erupted in whispers. Stephen stared at me. That's impossible. It's all documented. Every payment, every family, every thank you letter. Where did you get that kind of money? From being just a janitor for 43 years. From living below my means while you lived above yours. Rebecca had stopped backing toward the door. Mr. Thompson, are you saying you're a millionaire? Was, past tense. I gave it all away. Stephen's face had gone from red to pale gray. All of it? Every penny. The house was the last asset. But what about your care? Your future? I looked around the lobby. Residents in wheelchairs, staff in scrubs, lawyers in expensive suits, all of them staring at me with something I hadn't seen in years. Respect. My future isn't in a bank account, Stephen. It's in 847 families who know someone cared enough to help. The phone in my hand crackled. Charles Morrison was still listening. Mr. Thompson, are you still there? I'm here. I think Riverside would be very interested in discussing an honorary membership for someone of your community contributions. I looked at Stephen. His dreams of country club networking, his plans for fake medical credibility, his entire constructed identity, all of it crashing down around him. That's very kind, Mr. Morrison. But I'm not much of a golfer. Tuesday morning brought the children. I was sitting in the common room reading the Springfield Herald when I heard them in the lobby. Voices, lots of voices, young ones. Patricia Williams appeared in the doorway, smiling wider than I'd seen in years. John? You have visitors. I looked through the lobby windows and couldn't believe what I saw. Families, dozens of them. Parents holding children's hands, teenagers carrying homemade signs, grandparents in wheelchairs pushed by grown children. Who are they? They're your families, John. My families. Patricia led me to the main entrance. The automatic doors opened, and I stepped outside into a sea of faces I recognized from photographs tucked in manila folders. The Martinez family. Little Sophia, now 12 years old, healthy and strong. Her parents, Carmen and Diego, holding a banner. Thank you, guardian angel. The Williams family. James, the boy who'd needed chemotherapy 3 years ago. 15 now, hair grown back, standing with his mother, Patricia, my Patricia, who'd helped coordinate everything. The Johnsons. The Andersons. The Millers. 847 families, and it looked like half of them had come. A news van was parked across the street. Channel 7 Springfield. A reporter was setting up equipment. Camera operator adjusting angles. Mr. Thompson? A young woman approached with a microphone. I'm Susan Chen from Channel 7 News. Could we have a moment? Before I could answer, a little girl broke free from the crowd and ran toward me. Maybe 6 years old, pigtails bouncing. Are you the guardian? She asked. I knelt down to her level. What's your name, sweetheart? Emma Rodriguez. You paid for my heart surgery when I was 3. My throat tightened. The Rodriguez file, emergency cardiac procedure, $18,000. I remember you, I whispered. Emma's mother appeared, tears streaming down her face. Mr. Thompson, we never knew how to thank you. More children were approaching, teenagers, young adults, some with their own children now. How did they find out? I asked Patricia. Hospital records? Dr. Martinez helped piece it together. Your anonymous payments all trace back to the same account. But the secrecy? John, you've been exposed, she smiled, in the best possible way. That's when I saw him. Stephen, standing at the edge of the crowd, staring. He'd arrived in his BMW, probably hoping to catch me alone for another argument about the house. Instead, he was watching 200 people who knew me as something he'd never imagined. A hero. Dad? He approached slowly, confusion written across his face. The crowd parted to let him through. Conversations quieted. Stephen, I stood up. Meet my real family. A teenage boy stepped forward, maybe 17, tall, athletic build. Are you Mr. Thompson's son? He asked Stephen. Yes. I'm David Martinez, Dr. Martinez's nephew. Mr. Thompson paid for my mom's cancer treatment 4 years ago. Stephen looked at me. Cancer treatment? $65,000, David continued. Insurance denied the experimental therapy. Mr. Thompson covered everything. A woman in her 40s approached. I'm Lisa Johnson. Mr. Thompson paid my daughter's medical school tuition. She's a pediatric nurse now. Medical school tuition. I remembered that file. Exceptional student, couldn't afford the debt. How much tuition? Stephen asked quietly. 4 years, full ride, $87,000. Stephen's face went pale. More than his fake medical degree had cost. More families shared their stories. The Chen family, emergency room bills after a car accident. The Taylor family, premature twins in neonatal ICU. The Brown family, diabetes medication for their grandmother. Each story, each family, each life I'd quietly touched. Stephen stood in the middle of it all, listening, really listening, maybe for the first time in 35 years. Mr. Thompson, the reporter had her microphone ready. Can you tell us about your charitable giving? There's not much to tell. $1.9 million over 25 years? That's extraordinary. I shrugged. Hospital janitor sees a lot of families in crisis. Sometimes you can help, sometimes you should. But why anonymously? Because it wasn't about recognition. It was about need. Stephen stepped closer. Dad, where did you get that kind of money? I looked at him. Really looked at him. My son, who'd been embarrassed by his father's job for decades. From being a janitor, Stephen. But janitors don't make... This janitor did. 43 years. 3 jobs. No vacations, no new cars, no country club memberships. The crowd was listening intently. Every overtime shift, every weekend job, every penny I didn't spend on myself, I invested. Stock market, mutual funds, nothing fancy, just consistent saving. For 25 years? For 43 years, until I had enough to start helping. Dr. Sarah Martinez emerged from the crowd, still in her hospital scrubs. John has been our hospital's secret benefactor, she announced. The cardiac wing renovation, the new pediatric equipment, the emergency financial assistance fund, all anonymous donations from John Thompson. Stephen stared at her. How much? Including direct family assistance? Nearly $2 million. The reporter turned her microphone toward Stephen. How does it feel to learn about your father's philanthropy? Stephen opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. I didn't know. Your father is being called Springfield's guardian angel. Were you aware of his charitable work? No. What did you think he did with his income? Stephen looked around at the crowd of faces, all watching him, all waiting for his answer. I thought he was just a janitor. The words hung in the air like a condemnation. A middle-aged man stepped forward. Just a janitor? Sir, your father saved my family's farm. My wife's cancer treatment would have bankrupted us. Your father paid $38,000 out of his own pocket. No questions asked, no publicity. Just pure generosity. Stephen's voice cracked. 38,000? Your father is the reason my wife is alive today. More voices joined in. He paid for my daughter's wheelchair. He covered my son's insulin for 2 years. He saved our house from foreclosure when my husband was in the ICU. Stephen turned in a slow circle, taking in face after face. Each person represented a file from my basement. Each story was a family I'd helped while he was busy being embarrassed by his old man. Mr. Thompson, the reporter continued, we understand you recently transferred your house to charity. Can you tell us about that? My son needed the money for more important things. What kind of things? I looked at Stephen. He was shaking his head slightly, pleading with his eyes. Country club membership, I said quietly. Social advancement. The kind of networking that opens doors. The reporter's eyebrows rose. You gave up a $2.5 million house so your son could join a country club? I gave up a house so my son could learn what really matters. Stephen stepped forward. Dad, please. Tell them about medical school, Stephen. Dad, don't. Tell them about the $180,000. The 3 jobs. The 40-hour weeks that turned into 80-hour weeks. Stephen's shoulders sagged. Dad, tell them about the fake diploma in your closet. The crowd went silent. Stephen looked around at 200 faces, all staring at him with growing understanding. I dropped out, he whispered. Louder, son. I dropped out of medical school. 13 years ago. The reporter leaned in. But you've been presenting yourself as a medical professional? I work in pharmaceutical sales. With a fake medical degree? Stephen nodded miserably. Patricia Williams stepped forward. John, there's something else. She was holding a large manila envelope. The Children's Medical Relief Fund asked me to deliver this personally. What is it? The deed to your house. It's been renamed. I opened the envelope. Official documents, legal letterhead, county clerk stamps. The Thompson Family Medical Center, I read aloud. The crowd erupted in cheers. It's going to be a free clinic, Patricia explained, for families who can't afford medical care, named in honor of your 25 years of service. I stared at the documents. My house, the house Stephen wanted to sell for country club money, was going to help families forever. Stephen was crying now. Quiet tears, but tears nonetheless. Dad, I'm sorry. Sorry for what? For being ashamed. For lying. For not seeing what you were doing. I looked at my son, 35 years old, crying in front of 200 strangers. Stephen. Yeah? You want to know what a real doctor looks like? I gestured to the crowd around us. Dr. Martinez, who treats patients regardless of their ability to pay. Sarah stepped forward, smiled. Nurse Johnson, who works double shifts to cover for understaffed units. Lisa Johnson waved from the crowd. Dr. Rodriguez, who volunteers at free clinics on weekends. A man in his 50s raised his hand. These are real medical professionals, son. They didn't buy their credentials. They earned them. Stephen nodded, wiping his eyes. The reporter was still recording. Mr. Thompson, what's next for you? I looked around at the families, the children, the faces filled with gratitude. I think I'll stay at Sunset Gardens for a while. Really? Turns out there are a lot of people here who need help. And I'm good at helping people. Stephen stepped closer. Dad, about the house. What about it? I was wrong. I was selfish. You were my son. You still are. Can you forgive me? I put my hand on his shoulder. Stephen, forgiveness isn't something you earn. It's something you accept. I don't deserve it. None of us deserve the good things we get. That's what makes them good. The crowd was starting to disperse, families taking pictures, children collecting autographs, reporters conducting interviews. But Stephen and I stood together in the middle of it all. Dad? Yeah? I want to help. Help with what? The medical center. The clinic. Whatever you're doing next. I studied his face. Real remorse, real determination. You sure? I've spent 13 years pretending to be someone I'm not. Maybe it's time to become someone I can be proud of. I smiled. That sounds like a good plan. Wednesday morning brought the lawyers. Not Stephen's lawyers. Mine. I was in the Sunset Gardens dining room when Fiona Mills found me. Mr. Thompson, there are some people here to see you. 3 people in business suits. Professional, efficient, carrying briefcases that looked like they meant business. Mr. Thompson, I'm David Richardson from Legal Aid Society. This is Amanda Foster from the State Attorney General's office, and James Wilson from the Ohio Board of Medical Licensing. They sat across from me at the small dining table. Other residents pretended to eat breakfast while obviously listening. We understand you've been the victim of medical fraud, Richardson said. How so? Amanda Foster opened her briefcase. Your son has been misrepresenting his medical credentials for over a decade. That's a serious offense. What kind of offense? Impersonating a medical professional is a felony in Ohio. Fraud in the application of professional memberships. Potentially practicing medicine without a license. James Wilson leaned forward. Mr. Thompson, we need your cooperation for the investigation. What kind of cooperation? Documentation. Evidence of your son's misrepresentations, particularly related to your medical care and the nursing home placement. I thought about the fake diploma, the forged character references, the lies about my mental capacity. What happens to Stephen? That depends on the extent of the fraud, Foster explained. Best case scenario, civil penalties and restitution. Worst case, criminal charges and jail time. Richardson pulled out a legal document. We also need to discuss the charitable trust. The house transfer appears to have been executed properly, but we want to ensure there was no coercion involved. No coercion. I set up the trust voluntarily 18 months ago. With full understanding of the consequences? Completely. Wilson opened his own folder. There's another matter. The Riverside Country Club has filed a formal complaint with our office. What kind of complaint? Fraud. Your son used fake medical credentials to gain membership. $85,000 deposit obtained through deception. I whistled softly. What's the club want? Full restitution, plus legal fees, plus damages for reputation harm. Foster nodded. The total exposure could exceed $200,000. Does Stephen have that kind of money? Not according to his financial statements. Richardson leaned back. Mr. Thompson, your son is facing significant legal and financial consequences. Are you prepared for that? I thought about the families outside yesterday. 200 people whose lives had been improved by someone they'd never met. Children who were alive because a janitor decided to help. I'm prepared for whatever comes. Even if it means your son goes to prison. My son made his choices. Now he lives with them. Foster made notes in her legal pad. We'll need you to testify if this goes to trial. About what? The medical misrepresentations, the false claims about your mental capacity, the abandonment for financial gain. I'll testify. Wilson closed his folder. There's one more thing, bellboy. The pharmaceutical company where your son works, they've launched their own investigation. Into what? Whether he's been misrepresenting his credentials to medical offices, claiming medical expertise he doesn't possess. What would that mean? Termination. Possibly criminal charges for commercial fraud? I nodded slowly. Anything else? Richardson smiled grimly. The Springfield Herald wants to do a follow-up story. About the house transfer, the medical center, your charitable giving. What about it? They're calling it The Guardian's Final Gift. Human interest piece about authentic generosity versus fake status. They want to interview me? They want to interview your whole story. The 25 years of giving, the secret assistance, the ultimate sacrifice for ungrateful family. Foster looked up from her notes. It would be powerful testimony for the prosecution, and devastating for Stephen. Yes. I sat back in my chair. Around the dining room, other residents were openly listening now. This wasn't just about my family anymore. It was about justice. Schedule the interview, I said. Richardson nodded. We'll coordinate with the reporter. When do the legal proceedings start? Formal charges will be filed within the week. Civil suits probably within the month. Foster stood up. Mr. Thompson, I want you to know what you've done for this community is remarkable. 847 families, nearly $2 million in assistance. It wasn't about the money. No, but it was about the principle. And principles matter. Wilson shook my hand. The medical center bearing your name will help thousands more families. That's legacy. After they left, I sat alone in the dining room. Outside, spring was arriving in Springfield. Trees budding, flowers blooming, life continuing. Stephen would face consequences, serious ones. But maybe consequences were what he needed to find his way back to the person he used to be. The person I'd raised him to be. Before the lies, before the shame, before the fake credentials and country club dreams. Justice wasn't revenge. It was accountability. And accountability was the first step toward redemption. By Friday, the story had gone viral. I was in the Sunset Gardens lobby when Patricia Williams arrived with her laptop. John, you need to see this. The Springfield Herald article had been picked up by national news outlets. CNN, Fox News, NBC, all running variations of the same headline. Guardian angel janitor loses home to ungrateful son. The video from Tuesday's press conference had 3 million views on YouTube. Look at the comments, Patricia said, scrolling down. My father was a janitor too. This story made me cry. John Thompson is what real heroism looks like. That son should be ashamed of himself. $2 million in charity from a janitor's salary? This man is a saint. But it wasn't just online attention. John, the donations are pouring in. What donations? To the Thompson Family Medical Center. People are sending money from all over the country. $5, $50, some as much as $5,000. How much total? Patricia smiled. As of this morning, $437,000. I stared at the screen. In 3 days? People are inspired by your story. They want to be part of something good. That's when my phone rang. The payphone in the lobby that had become my unofficial office. John Thompson? Dad? Stephen's voice was barely a whisper. Stephen, did you see the news? I saw it. Long pause. Dad, I lost my job. I wasn't surprised. What happened? Walton Pharmaceuticals terminated me yesterday. Said I'd been misrepresenting my credentials to medical offices. Had you been? Another pause. Yes. At least he was being honest now. They're also demanding restitution, Stephen continued, for any sales commissions based on fraudulent representations. How much? $83,000. I did the math. $83,000 to Walton Pharmaceuticals, $200,000 to Riverside Country Club. Legal fees on top of that. You're broke, I said. Worse than broke. Dad, I might go to prison. Through the lobby windows, I could see news vans in the parking lot, reporters interviewing residents, getting reaction shots, building the narrative. Stephen, where are you calling from? My apartment. For now, I can probably make rent for another month then. Then what? I don't know. For the first time in weeks, my son sounded scared. Really scared. Dad, I know I don't have the right to ask, but what? Is there any way to undo the house transfer? Get some money back for legal defense? I looked at Patricia, who was listening to my side of the conversation. Stephen, the house belongs to charity now. It's going to help families who can't afford medical care. I know, but families like the ones I've been helping for 25 years. Dad, I understand that, but I'm facing serious jail time. You're facing consequences. Silence on the line. Stephen, let me ask you something. Those 847 families I helped, did any of them face serious consequences if I didn't step in? That's different. How? They didn't choose their situations. Medical emergencies, accidents, things beyond their control. And you chose yours. More silence. Dad, I made mistakes. You made choices, lying about your education, misrepresenting your credentials, abandoning your father for money. I know. Each choice led to the next choice. Each lie required bigger lies. I know. Patricia was showing me more news coverage on her laptop. Stephen's pharmaceutical company had issued a statement distancing themselves from fraudulent employee practices. The state medical board was launching a broader investigation into credential misrepresentation. Stephen, you're all over the news. I know, it's humiliating. Good. Good. Shame is the beginning of wisdom. You've been living without shame for 13 years. Dad, I can't afford a lawyer. The public defender is overwhelmed. I'm looking at serious prison time. I thought about the $437,000 in donations. Money from strangers, inspired by a janitor's story. Stephen, there's something you need to understand. What? I didn't transfer that house to punish you. You didn't? I transferred it to save you. Save me from what? From becoming someone you couldn't live with. Patricia was pointing to her laptop screen. A news story from the Springfield Herald. Local medical center receives $500,000 in donations. Dad, I don't understand. You were disappearing, Stephen. Piece by piece, lie by lie. The real Stephen, the boy I raised, was being buried under someone else's life. But the consequences will either destroy you or remake you. Your choice. Long pause. Dad, yeah? I want to make this right. Then make it right. How? I looked around the lobby. Residents in wheelchairs, staff in scrubs, reporters with cameras, all of them part of a story about what really mattered. Start by telling the truth, all of it, to everyone, even if it makes everything worse, especially if it makes everything worse. Dad, yeah? I love you. I know you do, son. That's why this is going to work. 6 months later, the Thompson Family Medical Center opened on a Tuesday morning in September. Bright autumn sunshine, crisp air, perfect weather for new beginnings. I was standing in the lobby of what used to be my house, watching families check in for free medical appointments. The basement where I'd kept my secret files was now a pharmacy dispensing medications at cost. Stephen walked through the front door at exactly 9 a.m. He looked different, thinner, more tired, but somehow more solid. Real in a way he hadn't been for years. Hey, Dad. Hey, son. He was wearing jeans and a simple button-down shirt. No more expensive suits. No more fake medical credentials. Just Stephen Thompson, community volunteer coordinator for the Thompson Family Medical Center. How'd the sentencing go? I asked. 2 years probation, 500 hours community service. Full restitution to Walton and the country club. How are you paying restitution on a volunteer salary? Stephen smiled, very slowly, but I'll pay every penny. Good. We walked through the medical center together, exam rooms where my bedroom used to be, a waiting area in what was once my living room, children playing in the space that used to hold my television. Dr. Martinez says we're seeing 60 families a week now, Stephen said. That's good. The donation fund is up to $800,000. People keep sending money. That's very good. We stopped in front of a wall display, photographs of the families I'd helped over 25 years, 847 stories of quiet assistance. Dad, I need to say something. Okay? I spent 35 years being ashamed of who you were. Now I spend every day trying to become half the man you are. I looked at my son, real humility in his eyes, real purpose in his voice. Stephen, you don't need to become me. You need to become you. Who am I? You're the man who's going to help the next 847 families. We walked outside together. The sign over the entrance read, Thompson Family Medical Center, where everyone deserves care. Dad, one more question. Shoot. Do you ever regret it? Giving up the house, the money, everything? I looked back at the building that used to be my home. Now it was something better. Stephen, I spent 70 years accumulating things. Now I get to spend whatever time I have left giving them away. That doesn't answer my question. I smiled. No regrets, son. Only gratitude. For what? For having enough to give. And for finally having a son who understands why that matters. If you're watching this story, I want you to think about someone in your community who deserves recognition. Someone doing good work without seeking credit. Someone like the person I used to be. Invisible but essential. Tell me about them in the comments below. Let's make sure the real heroes don't stay hidden anymore.